Hello, new students. My name is Francesca Span. I'm the Director of New Student Orientation here at Lewis and Clark College, and I am joined by the College Advising Center for yet another summer webinar. It is 1 week from class registration, so they are here today to make sure you are prepared and ready to register for classes next week. I'm going to pass it over to Katie. And before she jumps into it, a reminder, this webinar will be recorded and uploaded to the orientation website for later viewing. Katie, take it away.
Thank you, Francesca. Here, I will share my screen. So I'm Katie McFadden, Director at the College Advising Center, and I'll be walking us through the webinar today, preparing for fall course registration. I'm going to go through some content and then there'll be plenty of time for Q&A. We know people have a lot of questions. If you have questions during the presentation or after, feel free to type in the Q&A box at the bottom. I am joined by the rest of the College Advising Center team, Katie Lemon, Heather Miner, make them all wave, Catherine Leibel. And so Katie, Heather, and Catherine are gonna help out by answering questions in the chat throughout. All right, as Francesca mentioned, today is July 21st, and that means that registration is exactly 1 week away. Registration occurs in 2 rounds on July 28th and 30th, and everybody participates in both rounds. By now, you've hopefully taken your placements or confirmed that you don't need to take them for whatever reason, and you've set up your emergency contact information. Instructions and links for doing both of these things are in the Pioneer portal and the NSO checklist. So I'm not going to go into them in detail today. Just know that you've hopefully done them already, but if you haven't, they are still open and you should do them as soon as possible. Okay. What we're going to talk about in this session is 3 preparation steps: checking your registration times, developing a list of classes for fall, and then putting those classes in your preferred list, which you can think of like a shopping cart in WebAdvisor, and that's going to make things easier next week. It's important to check your registration times because the start times on the 28th and 30th are staggered and they're different for different people. So you have to go into WebAdvisor and look what your particular time is. And to do that, you can log in and click registration permissions in the lower left of the student menu. And then you select the fall term and hit submit. And it brings up this chart. Okay. The first line of the chart is round 1 of registration. And first years, you're going to be placed into a core class, the words or numbers class, later this week. So you'll have that in the schedule already. And that means on round 1, you can register for 1 more 4 or 5 credit class. And transfer students, you don't have to take core, so you can register for 2 4 to 5 credit classes in round 1. So this particular person at 10:30 a.m. on the 28th, that's when registration opens, round 1. They can choose that 1 class, or if they're a transfer, 2 classes. And they have until 2 p.m. the next day to do that. Then the second line of the chart is round 2. Round 2 is when you can just choose the rest of your credits. And you'll notice that it stays open from the 30th, this person at 11 a.m., all the way till mid-August. That's a long window to make changes, and you can make changes during that time. But because some classes fill, we do recommend you try to register as close as possible to your opening window as you can. And then the third line, which a lot of students ask about, is just a time during orientation when you can make changes. Okay, so all these times are in Pacific time zone, which might affect some of you who are not in Pacific time zone. So you have to make adjustments. So they are in Pacific time zone. So tonight, I want you to go into WebAdvisor, check these times, and then make a note in your calendar, on your phone, sign on your refrigerator, whatever it takes, just so you remember when your start times are. You might notice here it says advisor consent to register. That's something you'll need in the future each semester, but for summer you don't need it. So it will say no for all of you. It's nothing to be worried about. Don't worry about that. All right, so that's checking your times. And then the next step, if you haven't already, is to develop a list of class ideas. And I found if there's any part of this that gets people feeling a little overwhelmed, it's usually this step, just because, especially for first year students, you're coming into a model where there's just a lot more choices, and we don't dictate very strictly what you have to take the first year, which is exciting, but it's so many choices that for some people it get a little overwhelmed. So I want to talk you through how to make that list of classes. Now, transfer students, you've hopefully talked with your faculty advisor and know how that transfer credit's coming in for your major. And therefore you know what to take next for the major, but you still might have a couple spots where you need to develop a list of ideas. And then first year students, I'm going to bring back this slide from the first webinar. We kind of gave a sample schedule, a way to, like a formula for thinking about fall. And the suggestion is, okay, remember, we're going to put you into core, the words or numbers class. So you just need to think about the other 3 spots. Maybe trying out 2 different majors, things you might want to major in, or one of those could be a general education class like the world language. And a 4th class, something for fun, something you want to try. Now I'm going to show you how to look up ideas and develop a list for these spots. Anywhere on the homepage, just put in advising and click the first result. And then here you're going to click for first year students and getting started in a major. And transfer students, if you need class ideas, based on interests or those other class spots, you can click this too. What we've done is ask every program and department for someone interested in getting started in your area, what should they take in fall? And they've put all those recommendations, we put them all on one page, which I think is nice, makes it a little simpler. So you just go through the list and click on things you might want to major in, have a piece of paper ready, and just, quite simply write out the classes. So you want to come away with maybe 3 to 4 top choices and 6 to 10 backup options. I'm going to click art. That was my major, first year of college. So you can see if you want to read the major requirements in their entirety, there's a link for that. And otherwise, they're recommending trying a course in a medium you might specialize in, and they're giving you the class titles right here. So I'd write that down on the list. And they have a note that if the one you want is full, signing up for any of the studio classes would be helpful. And if you can't do that, then an art history class is also helpful. So kind of make a note on that. There are all of the majors and minors, and there's also pre-professional offerings down here. So if you are interested in pre-law or pre-medicine, there's more you can read about whether that should affect your class choices or what you might try in fall. So let's pretend you've done that. You have a list, a few top options, a whole bunch of backup options. Now it's time to put those in the shopping cart in WebAdvisor. So you're going to log into WebAdvisor, click register for sections, and search and register. Put in the term and the subjects. So I'm going to put in a few here. Geology, I think economics, and let's do German. You can do it just like this and hit submit. In this case, the classes on my list were all happen to be 100 level. So I am going to filter for first year just to help narrow the list down a little bit. You can choose to do this or not. And then I can point out a few things with the class results that come up. Econ 100, Principles of Economics, is taught 3 times in fall. These are 3 different sections. They have different rooms and instructors and times that they meet. There's really no difference other than the day and time. So I think it's helpful just to click all of them and put them in your cart. That way, you might have a top option day and time wise, but you've got the backup options there ready to go if you need to, or if your first class fills. I chose geology because I wanted to point out how this works with a lab. You can see that geology is a 48-person class, but that's too many people to fit in a lab altogether. So they've split you into 2 groups for the lab session. That means when you register for this class, you have to select the lecture and 1 of the labs. You can see this if you click on the title. If you click on the title of a class, this is how you can read the description and see the instructor's email. And it's also where you can see the prerequisites. So for this class, they're saying the prerequisite is you have QR 101 done or a 53 on the ALEX placement. And you also have to take the lab class at the same time. So I'll put both of those in the cart. And then German 101 has 2 different sections, so I can put that on there too. This is what it looks like for them to be in your preferred list or your shopping cart. And at the end of this week, first years, you're going to see your core class down here because we will register you for it. And then you can see the day and time and make sure it doesn't conflict with any of your class ideas. Now I'm in a test account right now, which is why all these classes look like they're empty. When you are in the actual web advisor, you'll see different numbers here because returning students did register in the spring. So you'll see that some of the classes have people in them already. Sometimes students ask me like, who are these students who registered already? But it's the sophomores, juniors, and seniors. So this means there are 40 seats available in a 40-person class and 0 people on the wait list. But again, you'll see different numbers for the classes. And that might help you decide which class has the fewest seats available and what you might want to prioritize for the 28th. Now we are going to pretend it is the 28th. So I'm going to go back here to the students menu. This part won't work for you right now. We're just going to pretend we're in a time machine and we're going to head to the 28th and it's registration time. How do you access that shopping cart? You're going to log into Web Advisor and click register and drop sections. It's going to take you right back to the list you built. And then for the class, you can click register and submit. Now, let's say your top choice on registration day fills. Somebody got to it first and there's not a seat available. Do not panic. Just put waitlist. And then you can register for a backup. Always waitlist yourself for the first choice first, and then register for a backup and hit submit. There is no downside to waitlisting yourself, for multiple classes. In fact, I think it's really helpful. Sometimes after registration, the dean's office will evaluate waitlists, and if possible, I've seen them, create another section of something if they can, in which case they offer it to people on the waitlist first. So if there's something you really want that's full, you should waitlist yourself. And if a seat becomes available, you'll get an email and 48 hours to go in and make a switch, which is a reason to keep checking your L. Clark email this summer, especially if you're waitlisted for something. And then if you don't take advantage of that within 48 hours, they'll just offer it to the next person in line. And as you look at your list, if you realize that 2 classes conflict with each other or it conflicts with the core class and you want to clean up the list a little bit, you can remove a class this way too. Once you've registered, especially since this is your first time doing so, I think it's good to double check your work. So you can come back out to Students menu and say My Class Schedule. Because I'm in the test account, the Fall 21 doesn't show up here, but it will for you. And you can click that term and click OK and just make sure that everything you think you registered for is there. There's also a way on the Students menu to you can check various things. You can look at the wait list as well. If you waitlisted yourself for a bunch of things, you can kind of check it out there. The one thing I wanted to show before we open to Q&A is back on our website on the How to Register, which is under First Years and Transfers, How to Register. Let's say registration's open, you're trying to add a class and Web Advisor will not let you. We have compiled here a checklist for yourself to go through. So you can just go through here and make sure, are any of these things a problem? Is that why you can't add the class? So we've got some tips and troubleshooting things here that are really helpful. Again, that's under How to Register. And while I'm here, I'll pause at the homepage as well because Juan Carlos, our alum ambassador, has a couple more Instagram events coming up. We also have put drop-in hours for the coming week and a half here. They're organized by date. And we have open GChat hours with Juan Carlos. So you can make appointments with us this way. And the one thing that happened this week is very unfortunate is the website for our booking page, our appointment booking page stopped working. And when I contacted the service, I found out that Apple made an update to OS and it affected anyone with an Apple product. And so we had to change our booking website. So if any of you have the old one and it's not working, I really apologize. It was bad timing for that to happen. But if you come to our homepage, this booking link does work. So if it's not working, you probably have an old one from an email, but this one does work. I will stop there and let's get going with Q&A.
Before we move into Q&A, I was just wondering if you could show everybody the search so that you can see all open seats or all first year seats. Because that's a kind of confusing search in WebAdvisor, but it can be really helpful for you to kind of take a list of classes that you're interested in from the Getting Started in the Major and Minor page, and then see everything that's open to first years as a kind of a way to like refine that list.
Okay, I think I know what you're saying. You're gonna have to tell me if I've got it right. Okay, register, search, and then you're saying do fall, and you're talking about the filter. Yeah. And the filter for this one, CAS, first year students. So what you're saying is, Heather, let's say you need to get some new ideas for classes that are open. Yes. So one way to do it is you can just put in the term, put in a filter for first year student classes, and click open courses only. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then hit submit. So this is nice if you're just feeling like, I had some ideas, but a couple things are full and I feel stuck and I just need to generate some new ideas for classes. This is a really nice way to get a really big list. Because I'm in a test account and nothing has seats, it's all open, it's gonna be a really big list, but I'll do it just for fun. Maybe. This kind of search makes it work hard. Oh no, it did it, it did it.
So one of the reasons I think that this list is really helpful is that you might come across a class that's listed on that Getting Started in a Major or Minor page, or a class that's listed somewhere else, and it sounds interesting, but you don't really know what it is, and you want more information about it. So for example, there's a really wonderful class in the music department called Workshops in World Music. And Katie, yeah, it's so much, it's a huge list, right? So it's nice to be able to refine it. But if Katie goes down to it,
it's music 1.
there.
Oh, you know what? I think it's just not in the test account, but I know what you're
okay. But say I want to take music and social justice. That's another really wonderful class. You can click on the title and then there you get the course description. So that's a nice way that sort of that Getting Started on a Major and Minor page and this page can interact, but it will also give you the complete meeting information. So sometimes there's just not enough room on that search result page to get every part, like some of the math classes meet every single day, but sometimes they meet Tuesday, Thursdays, and sometimes they meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it just can't all fit here. So clicking on the title to see the course description will also give you all of the class time information, which can
be you're talking about like how on a Math 115 they start it, but that it ends with this more ...
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's me.
No, that's good. And you know what? While I'm here, let's see if we can get it to work. I have had students ask where they can see their test score, like their ALEX test score. So you can do that here under test summary. It's also where you can see once the AP and IB scores come in. It's going to take a second to load, but ooh, maybe more than a second. Oh, might not work. It's going to work better for you. Test account makes it a little squirrely. But that's where you can go to see that. You'll notice that it opens in what's called self-service, where the school is switching from WebAdvisor to self-service slowly over the course of the year. And a couple of these things like test summary are in self-service, which just looks newer and brighter. Registration though itself still needs to be done in WebAdvisor. So that's why we've showed you how to do it on this screen. But there'll be occasionally times if you check things where it's like you're in a nicer, brighter WebAdvisor, and that's because it's self-service. By next year, all of it will be in self-service.
Katie, there's a lot of questions about the shopping cart. So can we just talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
The shopping cart is something you guys can do now. You don't have to wait for your time. You can get in there. When you go, can you walk through it? There's questions about showing it again.
Yeah, let me just do it again.
Yeah, when you go to the register for sections.
So you go to register. I'll just do it for, you'd put in the term. Then let's say you're looking up an art class. And you're really okay with any of these studio classes. So this is the way I like to shop. I just put it all in the list and then I weed out things later that don't work. Okay. And then hit submit. Now it's all added. It's added to the stuff I put in there a little bit ago.
Right. And now, so they're there and they're going to be saved there. So on your day of registration, at the time you're able to register, can we walk through how to get back to that now?
Yep. So if it's your day and time to register from WebAdvisor, you're going to click register and drop sections and it'll take you right back there.
And then the action. So some of you guys, I think, are trying to use the action box right now.
Won't work right now.
Box can only be used at your time of registration. Otherwise, it's going to tell you you're not able to register.
Yeah, it's going to give you an error message. The only thing you can do right now is clean up your list and remove things. There's a question about how to choose what to sign up for on the first day of registration and what to wait for, which is a really good question. I'd almost say that's a good one to ask your advisor about, but in general, you want to think about what's the class that's most important to you. For example, if you're someone who wants to major in chemistry, general chemistry is a year-long sequence that starts in fall. So it's important to start it this fall. Otherwise, you have to wait till next fall. You'd probably want to prioritize a class like that. Or maybe there's a class you're very excited about taking and you noticed it doesn't come around that often. It says in the description it's taught very infrequently. That might feel really important. But I say talk to your advisor just because we often have a good sense for what might fill the fastest. And sometimes it really doesn't matter. The classes you're interested in doing, you can just choose between them. No big deal. But I don't know if the other advisors have other thoughts on that. Someone says, do we take one words class in one semester and the numbers class in the second semester? Yeah, Heather, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so words and numbers. So as Katie said before, you'll get your assignment for that on Friday. And it's one of your 4 credit classes for the fall. And whatever you don't take in the fall, you'll take in the spring. So if you're in numbers in the fall, you'll be in words in the spring, and you'll do the similar kind of process for the spring that you did for the fall in terms of filling out a preference form and then being automatically registered.
Someone's asking how long it should take for Apib scores to show up in the test self-service. I had scores sent in the beginning of the month, but I still can't see them. What we've been told from registrar is that AP and IB scores were later this year for everybody. They're late coming in. You guys remember what day they were supposed to come? Was it later this week or next?
I think it was towards the end of this week. And then I think we've run into some who took it online, and those sound like they're not going to be here until maybe the middle of August.
It is later than usual. So it's not totally strange that you can't see them yet. I think that's pretty common right now.
The other thing we're starting to get a lot of questions about is the course numbers that have the F in them.
Yeah.
And you guys are able to register for any 100 level course. So those don't need to have the F1, F2, F3. What you're looking for with the F is any 200 level course. And it could be F1, F2, F3. Those just indicate that they're different sections. So the F is the most important thing there, but none of the 100 levels will have them.
I don't know about you guys, but I tell people not to get too caught up in the course numbers, because the truth is, like, as long as you have the prerequisite, if there is one, you can take the class. And a lot of classes don't have prerequisites. So I think you can just click on a course description and see what it says. Example here, I'll screen share again, you can see. You know, you can click, like, none of these art classes have an F next to them, but when you click on them, now it's just getting really squirrely. It's not going to say there's a prerequisite, you know. You can click on any course description and check whether there's a prerequisite.
We got a question from a transfer student about a class that taking a class that is that they'd like to take a class maybe that's already full. And that will happen with first year students too. So could you talk a little bit about the waitlist process, when you should go on waitlist? Does it mean you're registered for a class?
Yeah, so when you waitlist yourself, that does not mean you're registered for the class, but you have officially marked your interest in the class. So again, if there's a spot available, they are going to work through the wait list, you know, and offer that seat. I think it's good to be on a wait list in case there's any way another section's offered or something. Let's say you put yourself on the wait list and August goes by and you don't hear anything. So you're not off the wait list, you're not registered in the class. You could still attend the class the first day. And in a lot of instances, maybe you should. You can go to class the first day, even though you're not registered, talk with the instructor, see if there's any chance you could get a seat. It may be that they increase the course cap a little, meaning they open it up to a few more people. Maybe a few people that first day dropped the class and now you haven't missed any material because you went the first day. I think you can do that in moderation, which I say because once I met a first year student who had visited like 17 classes the first week in an attempt to get a seat, which is too much. It's just, you're stressing yourself out. But I think if there's one or two classes that you didn't get into that you'd like to, you could attend the first day and talk with the instructor. And for some of those larger classes, they'll even say it at the beginning of class. They'll say, hey, all of you who are not registered, but maybe waitlisted, come talk with me after, or put your name on this list, or here's what it looks like. And they might give you, hopefully give you some sense of how realistic it is to get a seat in the class.
Yeah, something Katie said is worth reiterating. So the schedule that you have right now that you register yourself for next week is not necessarily locked in stone. So you will have an opportunity to make changes to your schedule during NSO. But then during the first 2 weeks of the semester, the add drop period, the only way that you can add a class is to get the permission of the instructor of that class. And so at that point, wait lists are not quite as important because the instructor can, you know, decide, well, you're a first year student, and so we want to help you to get into this class. If there are spots available, maybe more than a junior who doesn't need this to start a major or something. So being in touch with your professors that week is really important, but also know what I've been telling people is for registration next week, as long as you are in 4 classes, you can't really go wrong. Like that's the goal. And then there's still time to change.
You know, there's a couple questions about the language placement and when people place high enough that they need to talk to someone at orientation week. You should register for that class. I mean, you can register for the next class next week, right? Now I'm doubting myself that I'm in front of this many people. Katie, jump in, confirm.
Video, but
What's that?
I think that you can register for the class that you placed into, and then you'll test. If you test below that, then you guys will make changes. Otherwise, it will allow you to stay there.
Yeah, so let's say you tested into Spanish 202 and which
Yeah.
requires the confirmation meeting at orientation. You should be able to add Spanish 202 next week at registration. It should let you, but you will need to do the confirmation meeting at orientation. The academic integrity tutorial. Yes. The link on the NSO checklist goes to the Dean's Office homepage. It does. One of us will be able to put the correct one in there.
Let me jump on that. It should be updated, but let me look into this.
While Francesca's looking into that, there's a question about general education classes, and that might be helpful for everybody to know about. So this is one of those areas where you can get something else to speak to WebAdvisor in a really helpful way. So the college catalog, your undergraduate catalog for 2021, 2022 is like your contract with the college, and it lists all of your graduation requirements, including your general education requirements, and then all of the classes that fulfill general education requirements. But that's like all the classes ever offered at Lewis and Clark that offer those. So in order to find out what is being offered in the fall specifically to fulfill certain general education requirements, you can use that course type sort is really helpful to see like what are all CAS courses that fulfill culture, power, and identity requirements, for example.
You want me to do it real quick?
Sure, yeah.
I love that filter. I think it's also good for getting outside of your head if you feel stuck.
It is very helpful.
So you could put in the term under course type, which is a long list, just go to the bottom, CAS, College of Arts and Sciences, Gen Ed, and then here's all the categories. So if you say, you know what, just show me all the global perspective classes that are taught in fall that fulfill that category, it's going to pull them all on one page, which is really nice.
One of the things that's nice about the sort is you can see all of your options, but also it kind of shows you a little bit why I often tell students, don't worry that much about your general education requirements right now. It's good to be aware of them, it's good to know about them, but I talk with a lot of students who say, well, I'm interested in, say, art history. And so you might naturally want to take modern European art in the fall, and that will fulfill your creative arts requirement or your global perspectives requirement, or I think your historical perspectives requirement. So let your interests guide you. And then if there are some that you're particularly just not steering toward in a year, in a couple years, then that's why you have an advisor. We'll work on this together to figure out some good options for the gen eds that you're just not ticking off naturally in your interests.
I also provided a link to the catalog in that question. So you guys should, it's going to send you, I think it sends you to last year's, but they're going to be the same.
Someone's asking for things where there's a wait list. Do transfers, especially transfers with junior standing, get a priority off the wait list? Yes, sometimes. I think that's why it's important to talk to the instructor. You can go to the class the first day, talk to the instructor. You could even email the instructor like the week before classes start. Not so much to ask permission to add, but maybe just introduce yourself, explain your circumstance. I'm a junior transfer student. I will be attending the first day. I hope to get a seat. I'll introduce myself the first day. Just kind of just introduce your situation before the first day. These are great questions. Okay. Oh, let's see. Francesca, can you answer the question about what the confirmation placement looks like for language during orientation?
Yes, I sure can. There will be an opportunity on the first day of orientation to work on language placement exams, specifically Spanish and French, will be available on August 25th from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And then there will be another opportunity, I believe on Thursday, let me double check. Yes, on Thursday, that is when other languages will have their placement exams, which includes Chinese, German, Greek, Japanese, Latin, Russian, and French. So 2 different options, depends on what language you are trying to confirm.
Katie, what is the admin 100 code that transfer students are registered for and the core placeholder?
Those are just placeholder classes because billing needs a class on everyone's schedule to do billing, and that happens before registration. So those classes are not real, and you can drop yourself out of them when you go to register.
Right, so transfer students in particular, keep an eye out for your admin 100 billing course basically. And when you go to register on the 28th, make sure that you drop that.
Katie, did you want to answer this one about registering on the 28th?
Which one? Sorry, there's a ton of them.
I know. It says, as a transfer, we can register for 2 classes on the 28th. Should we only choose 2 or should we choose more?
Oh, sorry, I clicked that. I wanted to answer that live.
I'm like, okay, go ahead.
I'm not meant to reply to it.
Okay.
So yeah, you can only register for 2 classes. You can have as many as you want in your shopping cart though. So I would have, 4 or 5 in there just in case classes are full, but the system will only let you register for 2.
Oh, here's a very strategic person. Can we register for the same class that's offered at multiple times to maximize chances? No. Like once you've registered for a class, if you've actually, you can put multiple classes in your shopping cart, like Katie just said, So in my demonstration, I did that for econ. I put all the sections in my shopping cart. Once you actually register for econ 100, you won't be able to register for a different section of it. The system will stop you.
And then there's also a question about, do freshmen click the checkbox to drop the admin class? That admin class will go away when you're registered for your core course. So you guys shouldn't see it.
Yeah, they're probably just going to swap it for the core class when we put people in it. Yeah.
That's what I would assume.
Yeah, someone said, so the 3 credit class at the bottom of the shopping cart is not the core class. It's a placeholder for it. Friday of this week, it will swap out for the actual registration in your core section.
You want to talk a little bit about like what makes an ideal schedule? Because somebody asked, do you need to take a math class basically? Do you need to take a math class? Do you need to take an English class? I love English. Can I take 3 English classes?
This is a question that makes a lot of people pretty happy, which is, no, you don't have to do a math class, which can feel weird. A lot of students say how weird that feels after however many years of schooling where you had a math class all the time. If you're not planning on majoring or minoring in anything that requires math, we don't have a general education requirement for math other than the core class numbers, but that's not exactly a math class. No, you don't have to sign up for a math class. Same with the idea. I think, again, just people are kind of using the experiences they've had in high school where it's, I assume I have to take 1 history, 1 English, 1 math, 1 science. Like, no, it opens up more than that. It's really about thinking, what do you want to study? What might you want to major in? And trying some of those things out. And along the way, like Heather mentioned earlier, you will have to address general education, make sure you're hitting all the spots, but it's not something to overly stress about right now. Heather loves English. Could you take 3 English classes? Oh, I've seen people do it, but in general, I think for your first semester, it's good to try to get a little variety. Even if you love English, it can be so much reading and writing, so much of the same type of class, that can be a lot. But that's just general recommendations. Yeah.
And then I messed up on one of my responses, and with the core times are 150 to 250. So you probably count on that time and start building a schedule around that time on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Yeah.
And then we're getting a lot of questions about the wait list issue. So my recommendation, you guys will wait list for a class if it's full. And then you need to make sure that you register for an open class. So by the end of the day on the 30th, you're in 16 credits. And you guys will attend the waitlisted class on the first day that that class is offered. The professor will let you know if there's a seat available. And if you do get a spot off the waitlist, then you can drop the class you registered for that you don't really want to take.
This is a good question about the days of the week. So I've been getting a lot of questions from my advisees about this. Should you spread it across the week? Should you, when should you take classes basically? And you will notice, I'm sure, that many classes are offered Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So that's a great, it's nice to spread them out. But taking all Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes can be maybe a little rough, because then it feels like you have all of this time on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And you might have some deadlines that always, like all of your classes might have something due on a Monday. So it's not ideal. So I do think it can be a good idea to spread things throughout the week. But just because that would be nice doesn't mean that it always happens. And so if you wind up taking all Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes, it's okay. Just remember that Tuesday and Thursdays are not like free fun days, they're homework days. So it's just, you have to be a little bit more on top of your time management. And apart from that, I would say if you are not a morning person, it's okay not to lean into the 8 a.m. math class this semester, unless that's the only option you have, in which case, morning people or non-morning people, we get through 8 a.m. classes sometimes, but have other options if that's just not you as much.
Yeah, I think you can pretty quickly figure out your preferences there. And it might be different than your friend or your roommates too,
I was just going to say, sometimes you're very much at the mercy of the course offerings and when the course is available, but also know that it's going to take you, I think, a bit of time to kind of figure out what really works for you and your schedule. You have your classes, but you also might have a job, you might have other involvements on campus. It's okay if it takes a couple semesters for you to kind of figure out what you need out of a schedule. It's not going to be, maybe the same for your roommate or your friend down the hall. It's a little bit different for everyone. So just kind of be mindful of, what's working for you, what's not, take notes. And then when it comes time to register for the spring, you have that kind of inventory of what's going well and maybe what needs to change.
Mm-hmm. Catherine's answering the question about the registration times, but it's really easy for me to just show that again real quickly. So the registration times, I have to do it on this, not the actual advisor. Okay. This is round 1, the first line. This is round 2. The third line is a time during orientation when you can make changes.
We're definitely jumping around, but another question that we got was about Greek. And so Greek and Latin switch on and off years. And so if you're interested in starting Latin in the fall, Latin 101 will be offered in the fall, Latin 102 in the spring, and then Latin 201 next fall. Whereas next fall, Greek 101 will be offered, then Greek 102, 201. So if you want to take Greek, just promise yourself that you're definitely going to take a language class in your sophomore year and register for it for sophomore year. That's fine.
Someone's asking if registration times are different. They are different for different people. We stagger them. And so that's why it's important to check what your particular registration time is. You have to go into WebAdvisor and view that ahead of time. And just remember it's in Pacific time. Round one of registration, someone's asking what's the difference between round one and round two. The idea here is that if we opened registration just at once for everybody, you know, someone might go in there and get all their classes before you get any. So we tried to set up round one and round two with the idea that at least during round one, everyone gets a chance to just get part of their schedule, maybe get a top choice class. And then round two is for registering for the rest. So that's why it's broken up that way. And that's how to think about it. If you miss round one, you can do it all during round two, but I think it's good to participate as quickly as you can according to your open window, just in case you're trying to get a class that's in high demand. And someone asked if people with earlier registration times get priority. I mean, yes, their time opens sooner, but if you have an early time for round one, you automatically are given a later time for round two and vice versa. So that is a way that we're trying to make sure someone doesn't get an early time across the board.
I'm gonna answer the one about the wait list again.
Mm-hmm.
You guys can wait list so on each round, you want to make sure if a class you want is full that you wait list and then register for an open section. The system won't let you go back in and wait list after you've registered. So yes, you could waitlist yourself for 3 classes and register yourself for 3 open sections. You won't be in 6 classes. You'll only be registered for the 3. You'll see 6 maybe on your schedule, but those 3 that are you're waitlisted for, you're not getting credit for unless you're registered for it.
Another thing that you might come across is like, what is the class? Could you show what the class status means? From open, then it'll go to some will be closed, and then it'll go to waitlisted, kind of what the differences are. And then those 3 numbers over on the side, what does that mean in WebAdvisor?
You know what, I think I need to be not in the test account for that.
Okay.
Just because a test account makes it look like everything is open. It's not as interesting. Okay. What do we want to put in?
Ooh, art's a good one.
Okay, let's do English. You like English?
Psychology.
Psychology, great. Okay. So here you can see for Art 100, the class status is open. There are 7 available seats in a 33-person class with 0 people on the wait list. See if we can scroll down. Here's an example of one that's closed. This class has 0 available seats in a 25-person class. This one is waitlisted. This is a high-level class to me. You wouldn't be taking this as a first year, but we'll just use it as an example. That there's 0 seats available in a relatively small class. There are 6 people on the wait list. So if you had the prerequisites for this, you could add yourself to the wait list.
Right, so classes go from open to closed to waitlisted. If you see a class that's closed, that means you can't register for it, but you can add yourself to the wait list. It doesn't mean you're like shut out of the class or anything. It just means that there's no wait list yet and you can start it.
What you're trying to do next week is do the best rough draft of your schedule that you can. It's a rough draft. There'll be things that you'll need to waitlist for. There'll be things you're really happy about and maybe something you're disappointed about. I mean, it's okay. Don't panic. Do your best with making a rough draft and think about it that way. And then if you need to follow up with us about ideas for how to handle the waitlist or what class you might want to visit the first week, we can definitely talk you through that. Are the closed classes filled by seniors and juniors? Yeah, the sophomores, juniors, seniors registered in the spring. Now, for a lot of classes where we know first years enroll a lot, there are saved seats. We also opened some new sections of classes. So there's enrollment management things going on. But if a class is full, it's because returning students registered for it.
We do have a lot of students coming in with transfer credits or dual enrollment. So this might be a good one to answer live. If you're bringing in a transfer class from a community college or a Head Start program, dual enrollment, and you've already heard from the registrar's office that they're accepting it for credit, what does that mean? What can you do with it?
Well, do you want to answer that? You can answer that.
Sorry, I'm trying to be a patsy here. Yeah, so when the registrar's office emailed you to say that they accepted it for credit, they told you what if it was equivalent to something at Lewis and Clark, or if it's coming in for elective credit. So this goes back to the very beginning when Katie said that, you know, it's like the little peace sign of what your major is, that credits will go into the general education category, your major category, or your elective category. And so if you got a transfer, if you have a transfer class and it was accepted for like general philosophy credit, then it just goes straight into that elective credit category, and that's great. If they said, no, this class is equivalent to Psych 100, then it's in the system and you can register for 200 level Psych classes, but only if they had said, this class is strictly equivalent to our class. If it's just general transfer credit, then no go. It goes to the elective credit category and you would have to start with Psych 100.
A lot more questions about what we can register for and all that stuff. So the system is going to cap it. It's not going to let you register for more than 19 credits. So you can waitlist yourself for as many classes as you want, but the max that you really just want to be aiming to be registered in 4 credit classes by the end of the day on the 30th. And the other thing is that we'll kind of go through these schedules as I assign faculty advisors, and we'll see, you know, if there's any huge mistakes, we'll catch those usually and be able to reach out to you and talk to you about maybe making some schedule changes. And just remember that everything you guys are registering for counts towards graduation. So very little room to go wrong. You're marking, you know, you're taking things off that 128 credits you need to graduate. So, you know, feel free to register for things that look fun and exciting, and don't stress about it.
Someone asked how they know whether or not the registrar's office received transfer credits. If you electronically sent your transcript from the other college where you have the credit, there should be a way to see if the transcript was received. Because it's electronically sent, you can see if it was received and opened. I told that to another advisee, and then she wrote right back and said, oh, yep, I can see that it was received. So not exactly sure how they did that. I assume you go back into the system where it was sent. You could email the registrar's office to ask. I know they're working to get through all the transfer credit, working really hard. Some of you have received that info and some of you are still waiting. I think if you're concerned, you can definitely connect with one of us and we can talk you through it. Same with, for those of you who got information back from the registrar about how the credits are transferring, if you have questions, just write to us, we can talk you through it, and how that counts, or if it's elective, or if it's, you know, functioning as a prereq in some way.
I just answered a question that maybe I'll also just add this, that you can put as many classes as you want to into your shopping cart. There's no limit. And there is also no limit to the number of classes that you waitlist for. So go wild, but remember to actually register. So waitlisted does not mean register. In your shopping cart does not mean you're registered. You're not registered until you hit the register button and then say, I agree, submit, or I accept, submit. And then the next page, when it says like you are registered for, that's when you're registered.
There should be a link in there that says like my class schedule, that after you think you've done all the registration steps, you can go back in there and verify. You'll see it there. Another question we had was about the shopping cart. You know, if you go in and add 15 classes to your shopping cart and you only register for 4 of them or 3 of them, whatever it is, just leave the rest there. You don't have to do anything. It's not going to hurt you to just keep them in there.
Yeah, if you're a very organized person, such as myself, and you want to remove them from your shopping cart, you can take them out. But yeah, you can always double check your registration as well by going to My Class Schedule, and that's in your student menu on WebAdvisor. So.
There's a question about priorities on the wait list. I think it is a little bit up to faculty discretion. Most of them are going to look at the order that people came in on the wait list, but they may make considerations. For example, for a student who's coming in as a junior level transfer and only has a couple semesters to complete a major versus someone who has more time to do so. So there is discretionary ways they can handle the wait list. Well, we're at 3:59. I'm sure some of you still have questions, but just feel free to reach out to us. Again, remember on the homepage for the College Advising Center, we have drop-in hours listed. We have the link for our booking page. We have open chat hours with Juan Carlos all next week. So there's gonna be lots of ways to connect with us. We'll do our best to get you your answers quickly. Thank you for joining. I get you guys, panelists, you want to turn your camera back on and say bye? Yeah, Francesca, Heather, Catherine, Lauren, David, you too. Thank you to AV. Thank you, everybody.
Good luck with registration.
Yes. Bye-bye.